Welcome to my cozy little corner. Today, I finally have my April wrap up. I literally forgot what month we were in. April was my best reading month yet. I read 10 books, I think. Let's check the notebook. Yes, I read 10 books this month. 3 of those were 5 stars, 6 of those were 4 stars, and 1 of them were 3 stars. So this month's wrap up, I want to do it in least to best. I will say I think I'm starting to get really happy because I'm feeling like I'm really figuring out the nuances of my reading taste. I feel like the best part of like time going by as a reader is realizing that, you're on year 3 of consistently reading. That's where I am. And I'm really figuring out the nuances of what I like in my taste, and it's making it so that it's so much easier to figure out what I like to read. So I'm picking up books and giving them higher and higher ratings because I feel like I'm really figuring out what I like. And I just think that this year is going to shape up to be a phenomenal reading year. I just, I'm so happy. Can you tell? Okay, so let's do the books in least to best. So the only book I gave 3 stars this month was Summer Nights. It's book 4 in Dresden Files. I think for the most part, I'm pretty lukewarm on the Dresden Files. Dresden Files is about Harry Dresden. He's a wizard for hire in Chicago, like very like classic urban fantasy feeling. I'm lukewarm on Dresden Files. I keep reading them because they're extremely easy and I don't dislike them by any means. They're just not like something I'm obsessed with currently, but I just don't think you can judge a like 19 book series that early on. So I'm just gonna keep reading them. I just think like not that they're forgettable, but like they're kind of palate cleansers for me. Like I like to read them in between my heavier books, and I just don't tend to give them higher ratings. I think my biggest complaint about Dresden Files is just his male gaze is really annoying and it takes me out of the story every single time. Every single time. Every single time. Like there's only so many times you can describe a woman as like a cheerleader until I'm ready to claw my eyes out. So, yeah. But they're fun, they're entertaining, they're very quick, and they're good in between my heavier books because they're really fun and easy to read. Okay, so now I have like a whole bunch of 4 stars, and I cannot be bothered to put those in order, but these are all of my 4 star books. The first one we'll go Dresden Files again, Grave Peril. This was book 3 in Dresden Files, and I loved this one. We meet a character named Michael that honestly carried the book for me. I really, really liked him. I also just liked the stakes in this one. There's a vampire party scene towards the end. If you ready, you know what I'm talking about. That honestly also carries this rating. It was just really fun, and I could be just, rose colored glasses because I liked the premise of this one, but I really don't think his Moges was that bad in this one. Unfortunately, it did come back in book 4, but yeah, I gave Grave Peril, which is book 3 in Dresden Files, 4 stars. Next, I read a book called We Are the Lucky Ones. I am in a historical fiction hole right now. It is all I feel like reading. I seen the trailer for this mini series. It's on Hulu a really long time ago, and then I looked it up and realized it was a book, and I was like, you know what? So I'm going to read it. Basically, this is a World War II story following a really large, like Polish Jewish family. Shows the family in the very beginning of World War II as the fighting and as Hitler extends his reign and they get separated. And I will say, I think the biggest downfall of this story was how many characters you have to follow. There are so many POVs because a bunch of different family members, and there was just a point in the story where there's two sets of couples, and I realized halfway through like I'm mixing them up, and I'm not sure if this happened to this couple or if this happened to this couple. uh so yeah, there was so many characters and so many family members, but I will say that by the end of it, I did feel pretty emotionally attached to everybody, and I thought the ending was really, really nice, and I did like the way it ended. And I do feel like the scope of this story, I do feel like I learned a lot about World War II and Poland in World War II. The beginning of this book is the start of it, and the end of this book is like the end of it. And so I feel like you just get a lot of information, and yeah, so I feel like I learned something. And like I said, despite there being so many characters, I did feel like I was connected to pretty much everyone, like emotionally by the end of it. I didn't cry, but I got pretty damn close. My next 4-star was The Beekeeper of Alpo. I did not know what this book was. I think I seen one TikTok that like mentioned this book, and I was like, what is this? It sounds amazing. This is a dual timeline ish story about husband and his wife is blind, and they are Syrian refugees, I believe, basically trying to escape the country and get to the UK. So in one timeline, you are following them, their track out of Syria, um, which is a very harrowing and sad story and situation. You watch them go through lots of trials and tribulations to get out of Syria into the UK. And then in the other like timeline, you're following them as they are in this like bed and breakfast waiting to see if they get granted asylum. I thought it was amazing. I think it was a very, like I said, harrowing refugee story. And I really loved specifically the timeline where he is in the bed and breakfast. It is from the husband's point of view, and he is a beekeeper. And when he's in the bed and breakfast, he's struggling with a lot. He's struggling with grief. I will say that's like the biggest component of this book is grief. He's struggling with grief. He's also struggling with his wife's blindness, but he's also struggling with a lot of mental health and trauma due to his journey there. And then I will say too, one of my absolute favorite things was kind of, I feel like it's a small part, but it's like the concept of like they're not even sure they're going to be able to get asylum, and they have to go through all of these interviews and all of these different hoops to jump to be able to stay in this country. And it was just really interesting to see like we're witnessing their journey and how horrible it is, and how they're just doing everything they can to get out of their country. Once they got out and they finally are out of their country and they're in the UK, you're seeing that they might not even be safe there. And I just found that very interesting. I feel like interesting is not the right word, but I don't know. I just found the way that it was written very beautiful. It's not a story that I've read anything like before, and it was, yeah, it was gorgeous, and I highly recommend The Beekeeper of Alpo. Next, I have a book. I never heard of this book either. I was really in the need of a random book. None of my holds had come in. I don't really have anything on Audible I wanted to read, and so I just went on the Libby app and just looked to see what was on there. And I found a book called The Star Side of Bird Hill. This is a coming of age story set in the summer where these two sisters, I think 16 and 12, I think. They are from Brooklyn, New York, and their mother sends them to her hometown in the Barbados. And so they spend their summer in the Barbados with their grandmother. And I loved this book. I knew pretty much nothing about it. I went into it completely blind. I just thought the concept sounded nice, and I love a good like summer coming of age story. It's just so fun and interesting and nostalgic. I will say, I think my favorite part of this entire story, you follow all three POVs, both sisters, and the grandmother, and I just found the grandmother's POV so good. I loved the way that she like talked about her daughter and then in comparison with her granddaughters. And I also have never really read anything set in the Barbados before, so that was very interesting too. I wanted to wring the neck of the 16-year-old. She was one of those where she thought she knew everything, but she clearly didn't. And I really loved the innocence of the 12-year-old. She wanted to know everything about like the grandmother. She's a healer, and she wanted to know everything about like the magic and the healing, and she just loved to ask questions. And it allowed for the story to have this very like rich spiritualism around the Barbados, which was like so good as well. It just wasn't a new favorite, and I'm trying to be a little bit stingier with my 5 stars, so I ended up giving it 4 stars. But if you want a good, quick coming of age, like summer coming of age story, I would say definitely give The Star Side of Bird Hill a try. The next book was kind of the same thing where I was dealing with uh needing a book and didn't have anything, and I live in a small town. I didn't really say that, but I live in like a smaller town. So my library is not great. So my Libby app doesn't have like a lot of copies of things. This was another book that I kind of just saw was available, and I ended up actually enjoying it. And this is a book called Read to the Bone. It is very short in audible hours, and in audio hours it's 3 hours. Very short. You could read it in one sitting. And it was following this family. It starts with the POV of the 16-year-old girl whose birthday it is, and it like seamlessly like flows between the POVs of her mother reflecting on her relationship with her daughter, and then flows again to her grandmother's POV and her relationship with her daughter and her daughter's daughter, and then it does the same thing with the grandpa, and it's just talking. There's so many things that this book talks about. I cannot believe how much she was able to pack in this little book. The nuances and the uh there was so many, like so much commentary packed into this little book, but it was never boring, and it never felt like there was too much going on, but there was so much in this book like you would not believe. I like topics wise, I think my takeaway from this book is how amazing of a storyteller that this author is and what she's able to do in such a short amount of time. So I will be reading more of her books soon. Don't know when, but it's a new author on my radar. The last 4 star of the month, which is, I have the physical copy somewhere, but I don't feel like grabbing it, is Atonement. This is a book that so many people love. I think it's because people love the movie and so they went and read the book. But I think she's 12 in this as well. I think she's 12. This is a book about Bryony, who witnesses something that she does not understand, and it spawns a bunch of different ripple effects that affect all of the people in the story's lives for a very long time. That's the easiest way to say this complicated synopsis. I thought it was good. I think, like, as time goes on, I think I just really enjoyed the movie, so it's making me like the book better. But I think as time goes on, I'm realizing how I like the book less and less. This is a book where the whole 50%, first 50% of this book, you are following that event and the ripples of that effect, or the ripple of that event. And the last 50% is split up into two parts, and this is set in World War II. So you get one POV that's like very World War II centric, very war centric, and then you get the last POV. It's one of those stories that if you read the beginning and it's slow, I would say just try to finish it, because it's one of those books where he was leaving breadcrumbs and he was taking his time, so that by the time you get to the end, you might feel like it's worth it. I think the people who love this book loved this book because they loved the feeling the ending gave them. I as just as time goes on, I'm just realizing that I don't know if the end of this book really carries how much of a slog it was. But the movie is stunning. The movie is stunning. It's the soundtrack's amazing, the imagery is amazing, the actors are amazing, the movie's amazing. I just think the book was kind of a slog for what it ended up being. So maybe I should drop it back down to 3 stars. No, I'll think on that a little bit. But yeah, that's Atonement. All right, so I've had 3 5 stars this month, which was so fun. I love, I, I love it. No particular order except for the last book. The last book I will do my favorite book of the month. Let's talk about Unbound. So I'm currently reading the Song of Chaos series, and this is a classic boy with their dragon fantasy. If you liked Aragon, so many people have called this Aragon for adults. I would completely agree with that statement. If you like dragons, I think that you need to read this like ASAP. I love this series. I gave the first book 5 stars. I gave the second book 5 stars. Unbound was the fellowship of the series. It's the we're going on this long quest and we're going to gather all the people on our way like book of the series, which I loved. I thought was really good. This is just so fun. I just love the series. It's just so fun. The audiobooks are really really good. The voices that they give all the dragons just make it so entertaining. I am currently doing this thing where I try to only read one fantasy series at one time, and every month I'll read one installment of that fantasy series. Since I'm reading so much historical fiction, that way it gives me like a break. It also helps me stay consistent with my current fantasy series I'm reading. So, this is the one I'm currently reading, and I am enjoying it. So, I will definitely read the next book next month. But yeah, only thing I can really say about it is classic fantasy tropes done in a modern way. So entertaining, so fun. I love the characters. I love the dragons. You should read it. That's Unbound. These last 2 books, I just had a fight in my brain of which one I wanted to make my favorite book of the month, but I think let's go with my second favorite book of the month was A Thousand Splendid Suns. Oh my gosh. This book, a lot of people read this book in school. I've learned this recently. I did not read this in school. But this was phenomenal. It made me cry. And I keep thinking about this book. This is a book that spans like 30 years. It might be even a little bit more than that, and it follows 2 women who marry the same man. So in the beginning, you get this woman marrying this man in Afghanistan, I believe. And 30 years later, into the story, you also get another woman who marries this man, and you get this very like um, unlikely friendship, which is beautiful. You follow this marriage and these 2 marriages alongside all of the political turmoil in Afghanistan. It follows like the civil war that was going on there, the rise and fall of the Taliban rule. Um, yeah, this is just like a very harrowing, very beautiful story. Ultimately, it ends in a very like satisfying, almost hopeful way, which are my favorite stories. If you have not read this book, I think everyone should read this book. I love this book. If you like historical fiction at all, don't walk, run, go read this book. My favorite book this month was Island of Missing Trees. I've talked about this book so much in my short form content. It's kind of disgusting. This book is absolutely beautiful. This follows a dual timeline of a couple in 1970s Cyprus who are like forbidden lovers. They're not supposed to like be together. And then there's a civil war going on in Cyprus with the Greeks and the Turks. And so then flash forward, we have the POV of a little girl, cannot remember how old she is, and she is grieving the death of her mother. And so you're watching her deal with that over like a course of a weekend. And then you are also getting the story of this romance in Cyprus, all while you get the gorgeous narration from a fig tree. I just finished this. I'm a little bit into the next month, and I just finished this other book by this author. This woman knows how to write. Okay. Like her storytelling is gorgeous. The way she weaves in and out her POVs, the way like she used the fig tree to tell the story was just immaculate. I will say, like, you don't watch the romance happen. Like, when the story starts, they're already together. But the way that she writes it, it's like absolutely believable from page one. And I don't know if this makes any sense, but for me personally, I kind of feel like her writing is like a literary fiction fairy tale. Like there's just something about her storytelling that has that kind of like lit fic fairy tale quality. I don't know. I love it though. It was gorgeous. It was amazing. I learned a lot about the Greek and Turk civil war, like in Cyprus. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know where Cyprus was. So that was fun to learn about. Um, yeah, I'm gonna be absolutely shocked if this book doesn't end up in my top books of the year because it was just that good and it wasn't super long either. You could read it pretty quickly. Highly recommend the audiobook. I think the voice for the fig tree was just like 10 out of 10. Amazing. But yeah, that was my last book, The Island of Missing Trees. All right. Thanks for watching, you guys. If you like this video, you can like, subscribe, leave me a comment of what your favorite book you read this month was, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.